Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel. As you can see from the title, our discussion today is gonna be focusing on nonverbal communication and in particular on the mysterious world of gestures. So before starting our talk, let me just give you a very brief story about gestures and nonverbal communication. The story I want to give you is related to David McNeill, who has been one of the main researchers in the field of nonverbal communication. In the early 70s, David McNeill, who was a professor of psychology at the University of Chicago, was giving a lecture in Paris. Something weird happened to him while he was giving his speech. Amongst the audience, he noticed a woman that was moving her hands and moving her arms in such a way that seemed to be connected to what he was also saying. What he realized later on is that the woman was actually an interpreter, translating McNeill's word in English into French. So this moment of confusion was actually shedding light on one of the most prominent research issue that David McNeill worked on, and it is the connection between gesture and speech, which are inseparable. One of the main issues when we are talking about nonverbal communication is the relation between verbal and nonverbal communication. In particular, people are for many centuries ask themselves if language and gesture are two different things, or rather if they are separate. Well, what McNeill found out is that gestures and language are intimately tied. In particular, they are part of the same psychological structure. In addition, what has been found in the field of verbal communication is that humans tend to gesture while talking regardless of the language. Even people that are blind since their birth, they tend to gesture. Another very important point we should mention here, talking about nonverbal communication, it's while it is easy to understand that gestures are used by humans to communicate, to help us conveying the meaning we want to share with others, it is also important to underline the function that gestures have in the process of thinking. In fact, not only we are moving our hands, we are moving our face, our entire body to communicate, but also those same movements are actually helping us formulating the mental processes that are happening inside our mind and making them concrete through our language. As you can imagine, it's not so easy to study gestures. There are many different ways people use their body to communicate. What McNeill did in 1985, it was a gestures categorization. So after collecting so much of data concerning nonverbal communication, he found out that 4 categories can be found in any nonverbal communication act. These 4 categories are the following: iconic gestures, metaphoric ones, deictic gestures, and beats. Okay, let's start with the first one, iconic gestures. Iconic gestures are utilized for picturable aspects of concrete objects or actions in talk. For instance, you are maybe using your hands or moving your arms in such a way to imitate, for instance, the action of driving a car or the shape of an animal. The second category is including all the metaphoric gestures. These ones are gestures that tend to refer to abstract ideas. Think about an abstract concept, for example, the concept of money, and the way you're joining your fingers and moving your hands in such a way to refer to the idea of money. The third category is the one including the deictic gestures. These ones are extremely common. We are using them all along in our verbal communication. It's simply when we are indicating an object which could be within a visible range or just a metaphoric one. For instance, you're pointing something, or you're talking about another city different from the one you are currently in at that moment, and you're pointing somewhere to refer to that other physical place. And the last category, it's called beats. Beats are also very common, and this kind of gestures, they are the repetition of the same form of gesture that speakers tend to use regardless of the words or objects they are referring to. It's just a sort of way we are using to fill the gaps we are letting empty with our speech. After giving you the categorization of gestures that McNeil proposed, we would like to address here the positive aspects of gesturing, because for many years the act of gesturing has been having a negative connotation. Instead, it is important to underline the gesture. They're not simply used to convey what we are thinking, but as we said before, they are helping us to think. In addition, talking about language acquisition in toddlers, it has been found that if toddlers are encouraged to gesture, they will tend to start producing more words. And finally, what it is also important to remember while talking about nonverbal communication is that very often putting our ideas into motion, so moving our body in such a way to communicate, it's bringing us closer to what we are trying to say. I hope you enjoy this talk. Thank you very much, and please leave your comment